And we are back for the last session of the day. Cannot believe we've reached this last panel discussion. I hope that you have enjoyed the day so far and you have gotten as much information as you were hoping to get from it. For the last panel discussion, we're bringing in two familiar faces who chatted to you earlier. We've got Kieno Kammies, who of course is the radio personality and CS of Double I, as well as Hilton from DPD Laser, who chatted to us earlier. Hopefully he's not going to upset everyone with his sporting analogies. We've also been joined by Cyle Obermeyer, who is the co-owner and founder of Parcelit, Simon Taylor, who is the founder of MediPro, as well as Neil van der Merwe, who's an e-commerce entrepreneur with the Times Brand Group. They're going to be chatting about matching your courier and delivery process to suit yours and your customer needs. So James, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Yeah, it's great to be part of this particular panel from the gorgeous Cape Town. Can I just get from each and every one of you on the panel, I mean, the million of you at the moment, where are you based at the moment? So we can just...
Cape Town.
Yeah, so who's first?
Pretoria.
Yeah, Benoni. Kempton Park, should we say?
Benoni, Charlize. I'll go with Benoni. Benoni's good. All right, gents, thank you very much for your time today. It's going to be an absolute pleasure to have this discussion. Just a bit of an introduction to myself. My name's Kieno Kammies. I am a retired talk show host as of a month ago. I've decided to go headlong into business. So we're doing innovation and strategy. And then I'm a chief strategy officer at a dev team. So we build shit. I mean, that's basically what we do. We won't go into the detail, right? So as Sharon said, we are going to be talking about, your courier and delivery process and how that suits your needs and your customers' needs. And it's always something that I've grappled with. Fortunately, I've never needed to use a courier company for anything other than something personal, but I can just imagine as a brand with a brand identity, when you making a brand promise and then you need someone else to deliver on that promise last mile at the end of the day, can never be an easy thing, especially when you're not the only customer. And that for me is always the tricky bit, because you don't really control their company. You might have SLAs in place and all of that, but we'll get into these things, right? So just as a matter of introduction, if you can just introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your business before we actually get into the courier side of things. So maybe what we do is we'll start with Cyle Obermeyer, who's the co-owner and founder of Parcelit. So Cyle, let's start with you.
Great, thanks, Kimo. It's very nice to meet you guys, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here today and represent Parcelit. As you mentioned, I'm Cyle Obermeyer. I'm the co-owner, co-founder of Parcelit. We started Parcelit in 2019, Alex and myself, with a dream to fill the gap in the e-commerce fulfillment sector, especially for your small to medium enterprises that needed to get a foot up and didn't have the resources to go and hire out a warehouse and get 500 people to start picking their orders for them, especially if it was just 1 or 2 orders. So yeah, that's where we are, and that's what we are. Neil and Simon are both on the call today. They're both customers of Parcelit, and hopefully they'll be able to also share their experience on what Fulfilment has done for their business, as well as the delivery process and the efficiency of getting those products to their customers. So okay, sure. Thank you.
You do the last mile fulfillment for them at the end of the day, right? And just I'm very interested to know, integrating with the brand promise that other people make. I mean, it's an essential thing. Yes. What are the processes that you have going internally to make sure that you actually live up to it? Because you, at the end of the day, need to manage the people who do that delivery on your behalf. Right. You need to manage that pretty carefully. So just take us through that very quickly.
Right. So we've obviously got our set SLAs in place for our customers in terms of when an order arrives at our fulfillment center to when it leaves our fulfillment center, as well as stock coming in. So we try and manage that based on the SLAs that we've agreed upon. And we try and get the relevant resources in place to make that happen with the timelessly effect. When it comes to last mile delivery, we make use of third parties, the likes of Africa, quite predominantly at the moment. And we rely heavily on them and their SLAs that their courier companies offer to us. But we do have a team of guys that are constantly watching for faults and making sure orders are delivered on time. We do deal a lot with Take-A-Lot, so we need to make sure that lead time orders are there timelessly, as well as POs are there before their book dates. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and you can't control everything. So we try and mitigate where we can.
I haven't seen any of your customers swearing under their breath, so it looks like you're doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll wait till the end.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So for those who've just logged on, obviously this is the Fulfillment Summit. We are looking at matching your courier and delivery process to suit your and your customers' needs. Never an easy thing, but when it all works together, everybody's smiling, right? So you've just heard Cyle Obermeyer, their co-owner and founder of Parcelit. We'll now move on to Simon Taylor, the founder of MediPro. Once again, Simon, if you can run through, I'm not going to assume that everybody knows what you do. So a little bit about the business, and yeah, I think let's start there with you.
Sure. So my background is actually in web development. And so I've specialized in e-commerce for many years. And I started MediPro about 18 months, almost 2 years ago. Somebody in a lunch, one of my clients said, if you know so much about what you're doing, why don't you do it for yourself? And so decided, let's give it a go with a niche market. And we got involved in selling what we would call diagnostic desktop equipment. So anything that you can sort of doctors, nurses will store on their desk and use. And it grew incredibly quickly. The timing, was fortunate for us, over COVID thing. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about that, but it really worked well. And we started having a lounge full of equipment, which was less than ideal. And I had recommended and implemented outsourced fulfillment solutions for a number of clients over the years. And so I knew exactly what I was looking for in an outsourced fulfillment company. And actually went and during COVID did the very daunting travel. I had, being an essential service provider, was able to fly. So I remember walking through King Shaka Airport, heading up to Johannesburg to go and spend time with a few of these suppliers, and just seeing OR Tambo with tumbleweed running through it was quite something else. But in the process, I managed to interview quite a few different companies to find the right fit for us. And I think Cyle hit the nail on the head with Parcelit, as they really stand in the gap. There's a lot of guys that are incredibly capable at moving vast amounts of stock very quickly. But we weren't a business that fit into that category at all. And there were very few that would cater to businesses of our size and with how quickly we were growing. And so I think when we started out with Cyle, we were, shifting quite a few products, a day, and it's grown exponentially since then. And we, without sounding silly, but we're very glad for Parcelit, because they were one of those companies that recognized when we grow and were able to scale with us without us having to tell them how we were scaling and what we needed to do. And I think it's an important part, and probably one that doesn't get looked at often enough. I know as an e-commerce developer, one of the first questions I'd ask people is, how are you going to deliver product? And they were like, oh no, it's fine, we'll use a courier. And I said, yeah, but your customer doesn't care about, well, your customer actually cares a lot more than you think about the courier service that you use and how quickly you get it. And so you can't assume that if you deliver it a day later because you have a meeting that afternoon, that's going to be okay. And so, I knew that over the years. And so, yeah, we are a small company growing very quickly. Yeah, that's us.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a 7-year-old question, but it's fine because I don't deal with the courier side of things, right? And it's just kind of intriguing. So you've got the bigger guys who I imagine are quite set in their ways. We only do it this way, and we are not going to be flexible. We'll get to you when the slot allows us to get you, because I've had that. I've had people deliver stuff for me. We're doing a podcast studio, and I was getting stuff from Sweetwater, and I'm in the middle of meetings. And I said to them, listen, when are you going to deliver? Sometime between 12 and 5. And I said, well, that's not good enough. Yeah, I need to be able to be there. Is that the gap that they fill? Just help me out a little bit here. Someone who's not really immersed in that myself.
I think there is that to a degree. Oftentimes there will be I think in South Africa, e-commerce is, I say, relatively new. And so it's a lot easier to exceed expectations in South Africa than we think, because if you order something and it arrives the next day, you almost can't believe it. Firstly, that it arrived because of the wonderful legacy our post office system has left. And then B, also, the fact that there are companies out there that are highly efficient. But if it is, you do get people who, as you say, aren't available, over lunchtime hours and whatever the case may be. And so being able to communicate that with the couriers, make arrangements, and do that, you're right. On the far larger scale, your Take-A-Lots and well, it's probably unfair to say that, but your bigger sort of e-commerce fulfillment companies may not see a customer's delivery as terribly important when they're doing 100 deliveries a day. One courier is doing 100 deliveries a day, and so that it's okay if they come back the next day. But I think finding that fulfillment company that understands that every order is important, because you're growing and you can't afford to say, well, I'm going to, let one customer get irritated, because the reality is, as South Africans, we love a good moan. And, and we'll jump straight onto social media and we'll moan about it, but we won't celebrate the wins. And we feel as a small business, that's important. We'll often send a message through to Cyle and the team there saying, when guys are blown away, we'll say, you guys are doing a fantastic job. Here's proof of it, keep it going, because that's critical, I think, especially in a stressed out economy.
Yeah, I tell you what, and COVID people are even more stressed now. I mentioned earlier, I left media, and it's on a regular basis, it's moan. And sometimes you need to see the wood from the trees and do what you guys are doing, which I find really fascinating. You're seeing opportunity and you're going for it, right? So you do one or two things: you cry in your porridge or build stuff. And so I'm very happy to be part of these conversations. So Cyle, thank you. Not Cyle, Simon, of course, Simon Taylor, the founder of MediPro. Great hearing from you. Sounds like a phenomenal business. We move on to Neil van der Merwe. So Neil van der Merwe, e-commerce entrepreneur, Time Brands Group. Tell us a bit about your business.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to be here. So from my end, a little bit of history. I come from a corporate environment. I was based in Cape Town, at a big corporate investment firm there. And I had a dream of building my own business. And we found e-commerce as that opportunity for ourselves. So what we have done is about 5.5 odd years ago, we started selling fishing equipment on Take-A-Lot. And so that's where we started. And I learned a lot from the guys doing Amazon in the States. So they're sort of my mentors in terms of what they're doing and how they do it. And I applied all that knowledge and those skills onto the Take-A-Lot marketplace. And so a couple of years down the line, same thing like Simon said, we ended up with stock in the lounge it started off in the 3rd bedroom, then it moved to the lounge. The lounge became a little warehouse with all kinds of racks in it. And we were processing this stuff there. Week in, week out, me and my wife, we were processing stock while I was holding up a job. And at some point, we realized that this is not sustainable, and we are the bottleneck. And that's why I had a couple of options. Rent a warehouse, hire staff, put in systems. And I was heading down that road. And then I decided, no, let's first see if this can't be outsourced. I did a Google search, and I came across Parcelit, and we organized a meeting, and I took them through everything that we're doing, and that was February last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that started, and that has changed everything for me, because now I don't even have to be at home anymore. We were sitting here, trucks were coming. We were in a normal residential area, big trucks coming, picking up loads of stuff, because we were doing really well. Big loads of stuff, and we were processing all of that. So it's delivering, sending out, shipping, all of that stuff, and all of that got moved to Parcelit now. So at last, when the doorbell rings now, it's not a courier anymore. It's actually maybe someone visiting me. So it's been a game changer in terms of scaling with COVID. So the first couple of months, or the first month was kind of dead for us because our products aren't essential. But then after that, it boomed. And if we look at the amount of stock we moved, it was at that December level. If you think about how much stock you move in that Q4, that over the festive period, it was month after month after month. That was the volumes that were moving. And if we had to do that ourselves, that would be the only thing we would have done all day. And now we could have, so it allowed us to actually grow the business, add even more stuff into the market. At last, get to the stuff that I've wanted to, digital marketing. So we got into digital marketing. We had the time for that, and so it helped us to scale. That was the big part, and to grow. And now I can go to the ocean. I love the ocean. I can go to the sea for a couple of weeks on end, and the stuff's flowing into Parcelit. They're processing it and they're delivering it, and then I'm having a all at the sea, working a bit. So I'm not completely doing nothing, but I've got location freedom and independence now because of what Kyle is offering, Kyle and Alex is offering. So for me, I see it as a game changer for us. In the States, they have like lots of these. They call them prep centers. But in South Africa, there weren't a lot of these around. And together with Kyle, we've gone through some growth pains, some growth phase, but we're in a very good space together, and seeing lots of opportunities in the space between fulfillment and a marketplace. So at the moment, Takealots is dominating, but it can expand to other marketplaces as well.
Well, exactly. I mean, was it the Competition Commission that said something about Takealot the other day? I won't mention that right now, once again, but I mean, it's good to be able to diversify these things. Hopefully nobody's listening to me at the moment. But thank you for that. And by the way, if you're looking for a working space at the ocean, you just call, and there's coffee waiting for you. Well, right. It's an open invitation to you. Hilton,
shared office space, eh? Kieno?
Shared office space. No, we got it. All our devs are currently working at home. I don't know why, but they're all at home. So we've got tons of space here. Any of you can pull through, I'll send the address. Now, Hilton, Hilton Eachus, Chief Customer Officer at DPD Laser. Now, just tell us a little bit about this business, Hilton. I didn't choose you last because you're wearing a jersey and because you look smarter than all of us combined. It's just how it panned out. Okay, so Hilton,
you're in the Cape Town part of Cape Town where the sun still shines. I sit in Newlands and it always rains here, so that's why I'm wearing a jersey, even though it's a beautiful day. But yeah, look, DPD Laser trades as Dawnwing at the moment, but busy going through a rebrand. We're the bad guys on the call here. We're the courier guys. We're the couriers. So we are last mile delivery business, jointly owned by the Laser Group here in South Africa and by DPD Group in Europe, who are the biggest road distribution business in Europe. And lead the space in B2C distribution in 47 different countries across Europe. And we embarked 8 years ago on kind of following the lead of our sister businesses in Europe and building a bespoke delivery solution for the online market in South Africa, with a view to being the leaders in the space, and have grown exponentially over the last 8 years, and particularly aggressively over the last kind of 12 to 18 months with COVID, as many of us have experienced. My own background is actually not in logistics, it's in e-commerce on the retail side of the fence. I spent 10 years in the UK in the kind of distribution portion of those businesses, but first at johnlewis.com, and then after that as head of logistics for asos.com, which is a big online fashion retailer. So kind of have sat kind of both sides of the fence and know the pain and challenges of both sides, and so I kind of sit in a logistics business with a retail hat on, going, look, if we want to be competitive in the space, this is what we got to build for these guys. So to the point made earlier about, you know, carriers trying to turn up and customers not being at home, etc. One of the things that we built probably 3 years ago now are interactive delivery notifications. So in the morning, we will send a message saying, look, we're coming between 8 and 5. That will have a hyperlink in it, which takes you to two places. Either you can redirect your parcel, so you can change delivery address, you can change delivery day, you can instruct us to leave it at a neighbor. You can do a whole load of cool stuff on it. You can correct your address, which is a massive problem for the online space in South Africa. You know, and so it allows you to do all of those things. It also allows you to see a photograph of the driver and of the vehicle and of the registration plates. So from a safety perspective, a pretty handy tool. So we're kind of giving those options available to customers to redirect their parcel to wherever they might be on a particular day, so as to avoid that annoying courier experience where they turn up and you're in the middle of a meeting and you miss them and they've got to come back, etc. So so it's a small example of some of the things that we're kind of doing to make it more convenient for recipients, and frankly more attractive for our own customers as the retailers.
So when you are a bigger last mile delivery company, right, you have big clients and you've got the little ones. And what I'm hearing here today is, you know what? We prefer working with the smaller company because they understand us. We are important to them. And on the other side, when big companies have lots of people on their books, we all know what the P&L surgeons are like, don't we? We go, okay, these ones look after our bottom line. We need to be making sure that we put most of our effort into making sure that they're happy.
Yeah.
Is that a challenge for you?
No, it's not. I'll tell you why. Because, you know, like anything, the bigger players demand better prices. And so it's great to have some big customers. We sit with a book of probably 950 e-commerce customers at the moment. The vast majority of those are actually small businesses, because that's just where e-commerce is at the moment. There aren't a lot of very big players in the market. So we do sit with lots of small customers, and you know, we don't shy away from it. We charge a higher price to smaller customers. Typically, it's one of the advantages for people like Simon and Neil working with Cyle, because what he effectively does is he aggregates some of that volume and gets a better price on their behalf, right? And we work with a lot of other people like Kyle's business where that is the case, and happy days, everyone's a winner, because I get a kind of consolidated pickup point. Cyle gets to play a valuable part in the kind of chain of delivery, and Simon and Neil's type of businesses get the benefit of it. But as I say, we sit with about 950 customers, most of them, or a big chunk of them, small customers. You know, I've got examples of tiny startup businesses who I've spent 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours with, helping them get going, helping them get started. Because part of the skill in our business, when you have a market like the e-commerce market in South Africa, which is still pretty niche and nascent in the scheme of things compared to more developed markets, is that you have to work out which of the startups are actually going to properly grow and scale. And the degree to which you can do that successfully, you're effectively then ride on the coattails of that volume growth. One of the businesses that we did that well with is a business called Runway Sale, who, 9 years ago, we onboarded as effectively a startup, and now they're one of our biggest e-commerce customers, and we've done that with a good handful of customers. So no, it doesn't really make any difference whatsoever. I think the difference is that for the smaller guys, you need to have the kind of technology and tools to onboard them quickly without tying up a ton of resource. And that's fine to do that because they often don't need a particularly complex integration scenario. So that's okay, you can do it, and it's possible, and we do it quite successfully. The other thing that people might think couriers do, which we don't, is treat volume differently based on the size of customer that you are. Every courier, frankly, if they do their jobs properly, have got a clear floor policy. So the stuff comes in, and by the end of the night or the beginning of the next morning, the floor must be clear, right? And if you're a 10 million rand customer or a 10 rand customer, it doesn't matter. Once it goes into the sausage machine, it gets processed, right? And if ever we are going to delay parcels, we pre-agree that with customers, and we provide good reasons for it. So we don't distinguish between big and small customers once it's into the network. And certainly, by the time it gets to the courier, the driver, the guy actually in the road delivering it, he doesn't have a clue whether box A is, a tiny startup or a massive customer of ours. So the goal is to treat all of the parcels the same and provide the same doorstep experience for all of our customers and the same technical capability for all of our customers. And I mean, a good example of those delivery notifications I mentioned just now. I mean, those are available to all our customers. If you ship one parcel or 100,000 parcels, it makes no difference.
All right, interesting. I mean, I sat to that perception, right, which is why I'm glad I put it on the table, because I obviously have not used you or received anything from you. So my experience with some of the other people.
Parcel. We set up a retail shop we've got one in Cape Town, actually, in Newlands, where you can ship parcels from. Go on in Joburg as well. A little bit like a Postnet. You come and ship parcels there and drop off returns and do all sorts of cool stuff. You should come and test it out.
I definitely will.
Down the road. It probably rained when you get here, but you should come and test it out.
Got a rain jacket just in case I've got a Newlands meeting, It's always there in the back, but I tend to rock up with the rain jackets and my slops and my shorts as well while I'm at it. I also want to talk about the future of, or let me not talk about the future of where you think it's going to be. The biggest threats at the moment, from your perspective, when it comes to innovation, technology, and I want to start with Parcelit. So you're an innovator, you're coming out, you're doing things, the small to medium guys are really happy with you, but we always have to keep an eye on what everybody is doing elsewhere. Do you spend a lot of time checking to see what's happening overseas, what other people are doing, bring some of those innovations in? How do you hustle as far as that's concerned?
Well, as being South Africans, and we got to hustle and make it happen. So yes, keeping an eye out what's happening in the market in terms of fulfillment and distribution is key and paramount to us. When we started Parcelit, we looked for tools that were already available to us on the network and in the world. So we partnered with a company in the UK to handle our WMS system. And we partnered with the guys at Africa to handle our fulfillment, and we're plugging everything together. So yeah, what we're trying to figure out is where and how we could fit into the market in terms of being a fulfillment and preparation house in South Africa. there are other guys that are out on the markets in South Africa, and they do what they do, and we want to try and do what we do. So what we've tried to look at, what a lot of guys aren't doing, is possibly the preparation for marketplaces and the handling for the said guys like Takealot and Amazon, and when they arrive and stuff, so we can then be at the forefront of that and offer that to our clients and offer that to the market in South Africa. But yes, yeah, we need to always stay ahead of the curve. The other guys that are out there, the bigger guys, they're not a big monster to be scared of. They're a big monster to learn from. So I think that's what we're trying to just pick up and see where and how we could learn from what they've done, and yeah, take it from there. We're a startup and an innovative company, man. So we can learn every day, and Neil and Simon can obviously vouch for that as well. The things that have changed in the last 12 months since I've started this business, and since Neil and Simon have been on board for the last few months, we can't predict what tomorrow holds, and the amount of orders that we might have tomorrow, or the amount of orders that we might not have tomorrow, or protests in Bloemfontein and can't get stuff to PE. These things are out of our control. So it's good to have partners like UAfrica and PDP, DPD, and where they can foresight and push it to the people that are getting their parcels. Listen, guys, where there are going to be issues, and so that technology is very important. So we would want to be connected everywhere and everywhere possible. So,
just another question here around, everybody's talking about hyperlocalization, right? Hyperlocalization, and of course you sense the things from central warehouses, and you get them out to the rest of the country, etc. But and I suppose this probably won't impact on all of you, but with this talk about hyperlocalization, people are now starting to build models which will threaten the Mr. D's and the Uber Eats and the Uber packages, etc. And what they're doing is they're saying that they work in clustered neighborhoods, and they will get hyper-local people to do the delivery in those areas in certain cases. Now, that obviously won't impact you if you have a warehouse in Pretoria and someone in Cape Town orders it, right? But how do you see hyper-localization factor into your businesses in general? Does it play a role at all? And I'm talking obviously from a delivery point of view, but also as people who sell on and have these partners who do the last mile delivery. I don't know if that's even, it's just something I've got ADHD, so that's popped up right now, right? It's not on my question list, so I'm just asking the bloody question. But for me, hyperlocalization, and also making sure that communities benefit, and caring for each other, making sure that we don't use people from outside of a particular region, etc., etc. These things are issues that are starting to resonate now. Anybody can pick up on that question if you feel it's relevant.
I think Hilton would be the perfect candidate to maybe answer that, and maybe chat about the guys that he has out in the network, and where they just obviously specific in an area. So maybe Hilton.
I mean, look, I think just coming back to the original question around, how much do we look to, more developed markets to learn and so forth. So, I mean, look, we've got the benefit of having 40 plus sister businesses in Europe where it's super developed, and so we learn a hell of a lot of stuff from them. But of course, I think it's great to know these things, and you must be abreast of them. And there are some really exciting and innovative things going out there, some of which will provide, gigantic opportunity for businesses like all of ours, and some that will provide, or introduce some risk. And kind of both of those are good in different ways. I think the trick is, or the danger is not to become so wrapped up in them that, we're in South Africa here and they're 20 steps ahead, and we just need to move kind of one step at a time, or maybe 5 steps at a time. not try and be 20 steps ahead. You know, like people are testing drone deliveries. We don't need to test drone deliveries in South Africa yet. It's not necessary yet. You know what I mean? So we kind of got to, you know, stretch ourselves and be innovative and be ambitious about what we want to achieve, but also be realistic about what's possible with the infrastructure and with the skills that we have in the country that we operate in. Yeah. And we have some very unique challenges that other countries don't have, that render some of the really cool innovative stuff impossible here, and vice versa. Some stuff is possible here that's impossible elsewhere. So I think we must just be careful of that. But coming back to your points around hyperlocalization, I think is a huge point, and it plays also into the point of sustainability, which is the shorter distances we can move stock or move parcels, the better for the environment, and frankly, the better for communities, etc. And as a courier business, the secret for us and the secret for any courier business is to, especially when you serve a market like an e-commerce market, which is seasonal, is you've got to find mechanisms to variabilize your capacity for delivering parcels, because you don't have the same number of parcels every month or even every week. So post-COVID, as people have tightened up on cash flow personally, we've seen a dip in the middle 2 weeks of the month and an increase in the first and last weeks of the month, kind of payday weeks, right? And that's something we never saw before. So you have to be able to variabilize your capacity, which is difficult when you've got fixed infrastructure buildings, but certainly the majority of our cost sits in the last mile, so in the vehicle and the actual delivery of it. So the degree to which we can consolidate drops at convenient points, like the parcel shops that I spoke about that we've now set up, that's great for everybody. A little bit less convenient sometimes for consumers because you're having to pick it up, but if you've got enough of them and you've got them in the right places, then maybe it's equally convenient as somebody coming to your house. But then the degree to which you start, as you said, Kieno, to utilize kind of community people and infrastructure and resources to deliver the stuff. So one of the things that we did this last Black Friday, which we've never done before, is we launched a thing called Urban Delivery Partners. And we created a third-party delivery app, which is effectively a light version of what our own drivers deliver on. And we put adverts out to students or people, qualified people who have lost jobs due to COVID, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We said, look, you can come online like I suppose like an Uber driver would, let's say, and you can say, look, I want to work for 4 hours and I want to deliver 20 parcels for you today, or whatever the deal may be. And you can either come collect them from our facility or we'll drop them off at a place for you. And it's completely flexible. They got paid on a per parcel basis and off we went. And during the peak period, we probably had, I don't know, 150 to 200 of these guys rolling around Joburg, Cape Town, and Durban, fully flexible, delivering in their own communities with their own knowledge of the streets and the traffic and all the rest of it that goes with it, which is pretty handy. And they are people who otherwise would have earned naught. And for the students, it was great because they got some drinking money for the evening, and for the people that were unemployed, they got some money to put some food on the table. So it was an example of one of the ways that we've kind of harnessed community resource, you know, in a way and in a model that also allows us to be completely variable. But I think hyperlocalization is here to stay. I think we will see the birth, or the further birth, if you wish, of kind of mini urban delivery hubs. So I can see Kyle's business, instead of being one big warehouse in the middle of Kempton Park, being 50 smaller warehouses in Sandton and Rosebank and Fourways, etc. And doing that, and that convergence between kind of existing parcel points or pickup points or parcel shops like we have, and kind of retail stores that had back office rooms that they used as stock rooms, which they no longer need, and then big warehouses, and the convergence of those, I think, is an interesting space, but certainly a space that is happening and that will continue.
Thank you for that. And I think, I mean, spot on. And just on the point you made about always keeping an eye on the ball outside of where you are, people also don't realize there are nuances, and you can't do Bitpesa in South Africa because it happens to work further up. There are so many nuances that you need to take into account. And even the bigger corporates who bring those things in from overseas. I had a chat to Neil Schroeder the other day from ShopRite Group, the Chief Innovations Officer. And he said, you know what, we're bloody lazy, right? But we try and find things, whether they're overseas or here, and we throw money into them, like they did with 6060, for example. But he says it's not as easy as people think, because you need to dig down and understand who you're delivering to and what the nuances are at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think a very, very good point. Now,
you're 200 meters out of the 30-meter radius, and you can't order. So you have to just walk down the road and then place the order. So it's those little things that's where we're a little bit behind when it comes to the rest of the world.
No, absolutely. It's but anyway, you two have been sitting very, very quietly over there. Simon Taylor, founder of MediPro.
Yeah, it's what's interesting is I think with the different we all sit in quite different spaces on this panel, and so Hilton is sitting very much in that last mile. As an e-commerce business, I'd look at something like hyperlocalization, and I'm sitting here trying to think, like, would that affect my business? But being in the medical field, our customers couldn't care less about how local we are. They want their stuff as quick as possible because, for example, our major product is a stethoscope. If a GP loses their stethoscope, they want one, within half an hour. Whether they, we were doing exactly what Neil was doing, and it's funny that we had a similar experience. As we were packaging products, driving them, to the courier to drop off, to get them out as quick as possible because guys needed medical equipment overnight. And we were, and so I think, sitting here, I think that hyperlocalization will definitely play a factor in the future, but I think we probably as a country we just getting used to, I'm so blown away by how many people are so enamored with the fact that they receive a parcel within 24 hours. It's almost foreign that they would expect that. Again, I'm sitting on the e-commerce side, on the other side of the computer, watching the orders come in. Hilton's sitting on the side saying, well, we've had a parcel, our guys have collected it, we've got to get it there now. That's a totally different fulfillment side to what we're looking at. We're looking at it saying, well, these guys couldn't care less where it came from. And so we moved, part of the reason we went with the guys at Parcelit was because they were in Kempton Park, which means they could deliver it a lot quicker. Because if you remember back in March, April, May last year, there were no more flights. And so we were, our couriers at the time were driving stuff from us I live in Belito, so they were driving it basically from Durban to Johannesburg, from Johannesburg down to Cape Town if stuff had to get there, and they were trying to do that in 48 hours. And so it was impossible for us to ship product overnight to somebody who needed it in Cape Town. And so, that localization from our side of it wouldn't work. The only way we work really well is to have our product in Johannesburg, and actually the response we get from guys saying, where do you distribute from? And we say Johannesburg, which means you get it a day later. They're blown away by that. So I think we're still very much in that infant stage where guys are just happy to, they're happy to get a parcel within 48 hours. If it gets there 24 hours, Kyle's been, and the guys have been great. Some guys order in the morning, they have it in the afternoon. And we get these phone calls and messages saying, I can't believe I ordered this morning, got it this afternoon. I think once people get used to that, then they'll start moving on to things like, well, are they using local delivery services? Are they even local businesses? Yep. But with the cost of fuel and everything at the moment in our country, it's yeah, I just don't see that happening very quickly. But I love to hear what Hilton's saying, and using people in the communities and local. That's phenomenal. That's amazing to have that as an option. But sorry, my point was, from an e-commerce point of view, from my side, I don't know, Neil, you can comment as well, that hyperlocalization. I think the guys are just happy to get what they order.
Yes, absolutely. I think just if you consider the guys are just happy to get what they ordered, it's almost the same as a small business. I want to be abstracted from all of that stuff. So the stuff needs to go out in the way it gets delivered as efficiently as possible. But for me, at the moment, it doesn't affect me how it happens exactly. It's just as long as it happens on time. So yeah, for as a business, please just abstract us from it and give us tools. Give us tools to run it efficiently. And then you're going to give me what I need.
I mean, my answer to that, and listen, you're absolutely right about the industry you play in and whether or not people will care. And I raise this. I mean, we've built a little thing called NeighborLink, which is essentially a micro enterprise supply development tool for big corporates so that they can manage their relationships with micro enterprises, right? But when you chat to someone like Mike Bosman, who is chairman of Spur, and you say to them, listen, if people go into your Spur and they buy your chips and you open up this thing and you tell them where this actually came from, right? And you know that someone not too far down the road actually supplies it, you'll be surprised to know or to realize that customers actually do care where things are sourced from, how South Africans benefit from that particular process. It's a bit like saying, Bona Mahale and Bidvest, they're triple BEE company, level 1. A lot of these big firms use them to do cleaning, right? But the money gets circulated in Sandhurst. So, there are, the only point that I'm making here is from a hyperlocalization point of view, there are conversations being had, there are customers asking questions, and there are corporates who now start giving a damn about where and who and how things get to the end of that particular chain. But it's not necessarily, just because a chairman of Spur likes it, doesn't mean that it actually applies to you and your business, because once again, there are nuances everywhere, right? So I think that's what I get out of this particular discussion. I just want to go, there are questions here. This is to Cyle, right? How did you find yourself in a situation where you were able to identify this gap in the system? Also, kudos for IDing an opportunity right before a global crisis, kickstarted the need for this particular industry. So, Cyle.
Thanks. So to answer the question, myself and Alex, Alex actually, my business partner, comes from the retail industry and the retail background, and built an e-commerce, it's a very successful e-commerce toy store. And what happened from there is he wanted to get rid of the headache of handling the fulfillment. So he reached out to a couple of people on the market and found out that you had to fit a specific shoe or make a specific orders per month or have X amount of stock in a warehouse to qualify, per se. And it just felt like you had to be a specific size to get anything out of anyone in South Africa, especially if you're a small startup e-commerce. And so we just decided, you know what, we can do it, and let's do it. And we did it. We started it with nothing. We started in a retail, in a residential property in Northmead in Benoni. Yep. And from there, I've grown from this 100 square to an 800 square unit at the moment, a year later. So we're looking at moving into 1,500 square meter facility in 6 months' time. So, everything's just grown at an exponential rate. And to answer your question, we saw the gap. We thought, let's do it, and we did it. We didn't see COVID coming at all. No one saw COVID coming. We started this before it, and I don't know. I don't want to say it was luck, but it's definitely helped e-commerce And a lot of people can vouch for that in this country, in the world. It's been a booster to e-commerce, thankfully. And we're just glad to be on that bottom growth, as that guy showed earlier this morning on the graph, where we are in e-commerce in South Africa. And I'm glad to be on this ride with everyone. And yeah.
Okay, so it's time for us to wrap up. I mean, there's one quick question. You're very popular, by the way. Is there something like Parcelit in Europe? We're a manufacturer in South Africa and we export a lot, but have not found a fulfillment option in Europe yet. So it sounds like an expansion plan for you.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sure, I don't have the pounds on me at the moment to expand to the UK, but yeah, there's a lot of fulfillment houses and preparation centers all around Europe, all around America. Off the top of my head, we work with a WMS system, or management system, that is UK based. They're called Minsoft. They've got a company called Haul and Store that works in the UK. So whoever's listening and answer that question, have a look out for Haul and Store in the UK. They'll be able to help you.
Okay, so thank you, Judith Isaacman, for that question. And the previous question came from Andre de Kock. So thank you very much. We're going to have to wrap. So I'm going to ask you each one. I'm going to do something you've probably never done in your life before. Count yourself lucky that you're not a politician, so you'll have better luck at this. In under a minute, I'd like each of you just to wrap closing words. And I mean, we can start pretty much anywhere. Seeing as you've been popular, Parcelit, we can start with you.
Your closing statements, if you have a dream and you want to succeed in just start, man. You know, your brand, WhatsApp, send it. So yeah, if you're a business owner or want to be a business owner, give yourself those tools. There's a lot of people on the market that can help you succeed in this game.
Absolutely. Let's go to Hilton Eachus from your side.
Yeah, cool. Look, I think if you're attending this conference, it means you're involved in the space, and if you're involved in the space, it's a really, really exciting space to be involved in. It has been for a while, and it's about to get even more exciting. And a little bit like what Carl said, at the end of the day, there are a lot of people out there that'll help you all the way from building websites through to delivering parcels, and the tools are there, and they are either free or very inexpensive. So, you know, if you're starting a business, give it a good crack. There are lots of people out there that'll help you, and it's been great to be part of today. And thanks very much for having us.
Absolutely, thank you very much. She's Hilton Eachus, their Chief Customer Officer at DPD Laser. And let's move on to Neil van der Merwe.
I guess from my side, yeah, it's been the last year has been quite a roller coaster for me as well, and I'm very thankful that I'm in this e-commerce space, and yeah, just seeing all the opportunities in it. I've really adopted what I call this abundance mentality. At some points here and there, you see competition coming on board, and you see, okay, some of the emotional spike. Okay, you're gonna lose money this month or in the coming months, and then I just sit back and I look at the opportunity in this space, and it is so abundant that you can. It's almost like there's money flying around in the wind if you really know where to look for the opportunities. I really try to reframe everything that I look at like that. The reality is, it takes a lot of hard work to actually harness those opportunities. You need to go build the net to catch the money, but the money's there, and as long as you're prepared to tackle it and do the work, and you have great partners like Parcelit to make things easier for you, then you can only end up with success. Yeah.
But of course, Neil van der Merwe there with the Time Brands Group, and finally, last but not least, Cyle Obermeyer.
I'm just going to say thank you for the opportunity once again, but you know, Simon can close us off.
I missed Simon. I missed Simon there. This is my ADD kicking in again. I'm just like going, guess what? I just mentioned his name and I didn't want to be rude. So I just allowed you to. Anyway, sorry about that. Final word, sir.
Yeah, no problem. I think like the other guys have expressed on the panel, there's a heap of opportunity. what I would say is, with my background in web development and doing all of this, there are a lot of people that will give bad advice. So don't listen to the first person that comes along. Go and speak to many different people, do your research. We're fortunate to sit on the this far down the road, a year later after COVID, with the industry of having developed as much as it has. So there's abundance of information out there. Do your homework, look for good partners, look for good relationships, communicate well, and things will go well. I think that's been the key for us, is we've set very real expectations. We've been open and honest with all the guys that we've worked with, and it's paid off in dividends. Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed the chat. That, of course, let me get your name right, Simon Taylor from MediPro. Anyway, gents, it was great chatting to all of you. It was a wonderful discussion. I sure as hell learned quite a bit. And on to Sharon. Sharon, am I getting cut for being a couple of minutes late?
Absolutely not. I think that discussion was so interesting. I'll just let you guys keep on talking because it's really, really good. So I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's joined this panel. You guys were absolutely interesting. I think you kept me entertained, I must admit, but it was really educational and really helpful. So thank you so much for all of the insight and your experiences. It was great.